The rain had begun before dawn, soft, persistent, and strangely rhythmic, like fingertips brushing against the century-old windowpanes of the apartment. Amelia had moved into the flat just a week earlier, drawn to its tall ceilings and crooked charm. It was the kind of place that seemed to hum with memory. The landlady had called it a little piece of Victorian survival, tucked between modern cafes and bookshops in the heart of Edinburgh. The smell of damp plaster lingered in the hallway, mingled with something faintly sweet, lavender, perhaps, though no one in the building used it anymore. Amelia worked as an illustrator, quiet by nature, happiest when she was alone. Her first morning in the apartment. She noticed the uneven floorboards near the window. They rose slightly underfoot, like something pressing from beneath. She made a mental note to ask about repairs, but she never did. On the seventh night, unable to sleep, she got up and began pacing. The storm outside had deepened, wind rattled the shutters and whispered through the chimney flue. She set her teacup down on the floor and, on impulse, pressed her palm against the uneven plank. It moved. The sound that followed wasn't loud, just the delicate crack of age surrendering to curiosity. She pried the board up with the edge of a butter knife. Beneath it, nestled between the joists, was a small leather-bound book tied with faded ribbon. The leather was darkened by time, edges soft and fragile, the smell, old ink and dust, like the inside of forgotten drawers. On the first page, in looping handwriting, property of Eliza Harrow, 1895. Amelia ran her fingertips over the ink. The letters had bled slightly into the paper, but the words still breathed, as though written yesterday. She read by candlelight, because somehow electricity felt wrong for it. February 3, 1895. Snow again. Mother says the cold keeps the city quiet, but I like it. The world seems held in place, and I can hear my own thoughts. Today I helped Father polish the brass doorplates at the inn. He says I have the hands of a painter, not a servant. Perhaps in another life. Amelia smiled faintly. The girl's words were simple, but vivid. She could see her, a young woman with ink-stained fingers, dreaming beyond her reach. She turned the page. February 7, Mr. Wallace came again for tea. Mother says he will propose soon. I do not want to be Mrs. Wallace. He speaks to me as one speaks to a dog who's learned a trick. The next line was darker, the ink heavier, pressed in frustration. I want to leave. To paint. To see the sea. A gust of wind made the candle tremble, shadows shifting like ghosts on the wall. Amelia felt an odd ache in her chest, the sort that came when reading someone's heart too closely. She read until the clock struck 3, the final entry on that page ended abruptly, February 14. I've hidden something in the floor. If anyone ever finds this, please remember me kindly. Her pulse quickened. She looked again at the hollow where the diary had been. Was that all Eliza had hidden? Or was there more, deeper within the wood? The following morning, the storm passed. Pale sunlight filled the room, revealing dust motes floating like suspended thoughts. Amelia stared at the loose board, uncertain if she should disturb it again, but curiosity has its own gravity. She reached down, this time widening the gap with a screwdriver. Beneath the cavity, her fingers brushed something metallic, cold and small. She drew it out carefully. It was a silver locket, tarnished and heavy, with an engraving of a lily on its front. She pressed the clasp, it resisted, then yielded with a click. Inside was a miniature portrait of a girl with soft brown eyes and loose hair, painted delicately, lovingly. On the other side, a curl of real hair was pressed beneath glass. Eliza, Amelia whispered. There was something in the girl's expression, half smile, half question, that unsettled her. Later that night, Amelia searched archives online. There was no mention of an Eliza Harrow in any census from that address. But there was an article dated March 1, 1895, local innkeeper's daughter missing. Police report no signs of struggle. Last seen near the harbor. She stopped breathing for a moment. The harbor was less than a mile away. She turned back to the diary. Pages fluttered like breath. Near the end, one entry caught her eye, the handwriting more hurried now. He followed me again today. I saw him outside the window after dusk. Mother says I imagine things, but I know his cane's sound, tap, drag, tap. The next line was smudged, as though written through tears, if I go to the sea, perhaps he won't find me there. The ink trailed off. The rest of the page was blank. Amelia's candle had almost burned down. She closed the diary, but when she turned toward the window, her breath caught. Someone stood outside, just beyond the glass, a shadow shaped like a man. Unmoving, watching, she froze. For a heartbeat, the air felt thick, ancient. Then the shadow disappeared, perhaps only the reflection of the street lamp. Still, she couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk and began sketching. It was something she did when words failed her, to draw what she couldn't explain. Without thinking, her hand recreated the portrait from the locket, Eliza's soft eyes, her hesitant smile. When she finished, she noticed the figure in the background. A man. Tall, faceless, with a cane angled beside him. She hadn't meant to draw him. Amelia pushed back from the table, heart racing. She left the candle burning through the night. The following days blurred. She worked, ate little, read Eliza's words again and again. Each time, she swore the ink looked darker, fresher, and the scent of lavender grew stronger. By the fourth night, she began hearing sounds, faint tapping beneath the floorboards. She told herself it was the pipes, or the old wood adjusting to weather. But the rhythm was deliberate, tap, drag, tap, the same sound Eliza had written about. When she lifted the floorboard again, there was nothing new. Only the dark hollow and the lingering chill. She set the diary back. Whispering, I remember you kindly, Eliza. The tapping stopped. For a moment, silence returned. Then, softly, so softly she almost didn't hear it, came a reply, a whisper, warm and near, thank you. Amelia looked around. No one, but the candle flame leaned toward the diary, as if drawn to it. The next morning, Amelia woke with the distinct sensation that she hadn't been sleeping alone. The candle had burned out hours ago, but the faint smell of lavender clung to her pillow. On the floor near the bed lay the locket, open, though she clearly remembered placing it back in the drawer. She told herself it was sleepwalking. Or stress. Or imagination, but deep down, she knew. Something in the apartment had begun to stir again, awakened by her reading. Outside, Edinburgh was grey and quiet, the kind of day where sound carries differently. Footsteps echo longer, whispers feel close. At the local library, Amelia asked the archivist if they had any record of Eliza Harrow's disappearance. He frowned thoughtfully, adjusting his glasses. Harrow. Yes, there was a case. But the file was sealed. Family's request, I believe. Sealed. He nodded. Tragic business, from what little survived in the papers. No body was found. Rumors said she ran away. Others. Less kind stories. Amelia's pulse quickened. What kind of stories? He lowered his voice. That she was last seen leaving the inn with a gentleman. A man with a limp. That night, Amelia returned home uneasy. She avoided the floorboards, but her eyes kept drifting toward them, the place where history and silence met. Rain began again, soft at first, then steady, and with it came the tapping, tap. Drag. Tap, her stomach clenched. It was coming from the wall this time, not the floor. She pressed her ear against the plaster. The sound moved behind it, traveling upward toward the ceiling, then stopped, and then, faintly, a woman's voice, he found me. Amelia stumbled back, heart hammering. No, she whispered, shaking her head. No, you're not here. You're just a story. But stories, she was learning, never truly stayed dead. By midnight, the rain had turned violent. Wind screamed down the chimney, rattling the frame of the old building. Amelia sat on the floor, clutching the diary to her chest like a talisman. What do you want from me? She whispered. Pages fluttered open, unbidden, to a final entry she hadn't seen before. The ink was faint, almost erased, but visible under candlelight. He is here. I cannot leave. I tried the door. I tried the window. The sea is calling, but he won't let me go. If anyone reads this, please take me home. Home, Amelia's gaze drifted to the locket. The portrait inside showed the sea behind Eliza, faint waves painted in the background. The harbor, she knew what she had to do. At dawn, she carried the diary and locket through the narrow streets toward the waterfront. The tide was high, the air cold and metallic, the wind whipped her hair as she stepped onto the pier, the same place, perhaps, Eliza had last stood. She knelt near the edge and opened the locket one last time. "You're free now," she whispered, and let it fall. The silver gleamed once before vanishing into the gray water below. For a moment, the air stilled. The waves softened, as though sighing, the scent of lavender lifted and faded. Amelia closed her eyes. She felt lighter, as if the room inside her chest had been unlocked. That evening, back at the apartment, she placed the diary gently beneath the floorboards again. "Rest," she murmured. "You're remembered." The wood settled quietly over it, no tapping. No whispers, only peace. For the first time since moving in, Amelia slept soundly, but history rarely lets go so easily. A week later, a new tenant moved into the flat below, a young couple, laughing as they unpacked boxes, their radio playing softly. When the husband stepped on a creaky board in the living room, something beneath shifted. He frowned, knelt down, and pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside lay a small, leather-bound book tied with faded ribbon. The first page read, "Property of Amelia Wren, 2025.